Oh, I will be your friend.
4-laned all the way from I-70 through Breck, and so that's great news. In terms of things that the county is doing, we have over the last several years doubled, if not more, our road and bridge maintenance and construction funds to try to do more improvement projects across the county on our county roads, county maintained roads and infrastructure. And then in terms of broadband, we've partnered with the town of Breck, with Northwest Cog to develop what is called Project Thor, which is a broadband infrastructure project that some of the towns are also joining in on, and we think at some point the school district will join up. That is broadband service that is available on a private level as well. You just need to make a connection into that service. And I know that ALLO, which is the organization that the town of Breck uses for their broadband, actually connect in to that Thor project as well to provide access. So we're trying to continue to push that out and to expand its reach as well.
Great. Okay. Let's see, Nancy Carey.
Hi, good morning, and also thank you, Sarah, and everyone for joining us today. Well, Scott already mentioned the GAP project, but I'll just expand on that a little bit. And this isn't related to COVID or people coming in, but rather obviously a very long planned project. We have heard from CDOT that Main Street and Highway 9 intersection, obviously that's going to be reconstructed. So there will be, the most impactful construction that we've seen there in a very long time, I'm sure decades. So we have a presentation from CDOT coming up on our agenda in March to help us understand exactly how long the intersection there will be pretty much closed while they're constructing that, and also the roundabout at 7th Street. So that's going to be a very, very impactful construction project traveling from I-70 up to Breck. We're not sure if they're going to direct folks through standard applications to go around through Silverthorne and Dillon during that time period. So we'll get an update from them in March. Obviously, we maintain our roads and everything to the extent, but it's again, not related to the pandemic or COVID or extra people coming in. Broadband and cell service, obviously Frisco gets a lot of monikers because of our cell coverage. We are glad to hear that AT&T is constructing 2 new towers in town. Those should be up within I'm hoping a few weeks. So that'll be good for cell service. On broadband, we do not have the funds to tap into Thor. We got some estimates that were pretty significant, but that's certainly a project we're watching.
Great. Okay, Shannon.
Morning, everybody. So like Nancy said, we are continuing to work on roads like we normally would, regardless of the COVID pandemic. The council just approved just about $2 million for asphalt overlay, as well as adding a sidewalk and a crosswalk up on Ski Hill Road, and fixing the drainage at Carter Park Dog Park, which I'm sure everybody is really excited about. We also continue to work, excuse me, with the I-70 Coalition and their TDM subcommittee to try to decrease the number of cars on our roads and to come up with innovative solutions for travel demand management. Transit continues to be a bit of a challenge for us this year, and that is in large part related to COVID on 2 fronts. One, capacity limits are lower than they would normally be, and so moving the number of people that we have in town around gets a bit challenging, and unfortunately there have been times we've had to leave folks behind. I will say that most of those folks have been really understanding, and they don't want to be on an overcrowded bus either. And staffing continues to be a challenge, I think, maybe a little bit more so for us than the summit stage. But we've had some issues getting folks on board. So if you know anybody who's interested in being a bus driver, let us know. And then on the fiber side, Scott mentioned our partnership with the county and Project Thor, which has really allowed us to expand fiber broadband service in the town of Breck. We finished a project in 2020, a $10 million project that allowed us to pass about 1,400 premises in town. We also expanded free Wi-Fi in the core of town, and we're working on an organized small cell development or deployment, trying to get with carriers to agree on what that should look like within the town, but that will also tap into that fiber network that Scott described. And we're applying for a DOLA grant, hopefully to get some middle mile money to get from the core of town to the Alta Verde project, which is a workforce housing project that we'll be constructing on the north end of town. And that's it.
Okay, great, thank you. Ryan?
Thanks, appreciate being here this morning. You know, we never talk about water and sewer, and that's fantastic because everyone just has an expectation that regardless of how we grow or where we grow, when they flush or turn on the water, it's going to be there, and it will be. But I think it's worth mentioning there's a lot of work that our entities do to make sure that we've got water rights and we've got all the things, capacity in those plants. So shout out to our water sewer folks. On the transportation side, I know that gets a lot of focus. Silverthorne did do an update to our transportation master plan. So shorter term, a traffic signal at the Smith Ranch area there, Ruby Ranch Road, come and go, that intersection. We'll likely see a new signal next year, planning for that this year. Longer term, but something that came out of our master plan is another an auto and pedestrian opportunity across the river from Stevens to Adams. So if you're familiar with kind of at the base of the dam there where Alpine Lumber's building is going up right over the river, another opportunity across the river there. That one's longer term. Obviously exit 205 is an ongoing conversation with CDOT. They control that interchange, but we continue to push for a new solution there. I think between Frisco and Silverthorne in the coming years, you'll see another auxiliary lane that will have some traffic impacts in Silverthorne when that construction begins, because they'll have to widen the bridges to do that. So we will have some traffic impacts in Silverthorne. Broadband, we are a part of the Thor project. I know we switched over some of our town facilities just a couple of weeks ago, jumped onto that network. So we're just laying conduit everywhere we can and trying to make sure that we've got those opportunities in the future. And those are the main things. Obviously, parking garage is up in downtown. That should be open soon. And so new things in Silverthorne like sidewalks and on-street parking is additional infrastructure that folks will be enjoying pretty soon. Shannon mentioned the I-70 Coalition of Transportation Demand. One of the things that we all supported and got stalled in the legislature due to COVID was some legislation that would allow Denver folks to carpool and do that in a way that they're not treated as Uber drivers. And so that had bipartisan support, and hopefully that will come back. It just got caught up in COVID, but we see that as one of the opportunities to limit the number of cars that are coming in. Thanks.
Great. Michelle?
Oh, good morning, and thank you, Sarah. Blue River, we don't have a lot going on, but what we are really focused on, especially with the increase in population that has decided that the mountain is a great place to remote work, and I have to agree, is we're going to be working on drainage projects on our roads. Really, the last few years we have targeted key roads on that, and so we're going to be meeting with our road contractor in the spring and identifying where we can do some beefing up and increase the drainage, improve the drainage. Where we've done it in the past has been very successful, but we're also going to start working towards some of the larger capital projects that we've been stowing away money for to do some of those bigger road projects for the future. We're working with a small group to talk about fire mitigation the group includes Red, White, and Blue, Forest Service, Summit County Wildfire Council, and some residents, and how we can increase the education on defensible space. We are surrounded by national forest, and there are some plans in the national forest that I think will help the town, but then what we can do to increase that, and as well as the future for adding some more cisterns. We have 21 locations where we have cisterns for fire protection now, but we're looking to increase that. We're not really looking at broadband geographically. Everyone that comes and looks at where we're at, they say, okay, maybe not. And geographically, it's just really tough. But we have begun talks as with Verizon as possibly adding a tower at Town Hall. The talks are very early, but we're hoping to get a tower maybe at Town Hall to help increase our coverage and improve our coverage as calls frequently get dropped when it's busy. And that's all we got going on.
Okay, great. Nathan, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having us, Sarah. We really appreciate it. This has been an unprecedented year with the pandemic, and I luckily had the fortune of starting my position a couple days before the pandemic, which was sort of like jumping in the deep end of the pool. But needless to say, coming out of what we think is some uncertain economic times, the town of Dillon and the town council have decided to reinvest in the community. So coming up here in 2021, we're going to be redoing Upper Tenderfoot, which is on the north side of Town Park, which is going to be great because what we're trying to do is mitigate some of the parking issues that we have in our residential areas, primarily around the lake and the lakefront, because we're just getting inundated with tourists. And I think it's just because our marinas have been going gangbusters. So we're looking at infrastructure improvements at the marina as well. We're going to install a new rental dock and also move our fuel tanks onto the land, which is part of our 25-year agreement with Denver Water. But we're really focusing on some of these hot spots that we have around town with our new developments, such as Homewood Suites, the Vale Hospital. We have another urgent care clinic, Dr. C's project down on Anemone that's coming online, as well as Panera Bread. So as a result of that, we're going to be doing several mill and overlays around those various projects, especially Dillon Ridge Road. We're anticipating a huge increase in traffic with that Vale Health Hospital project. And we're trying to time it just right so it's right before they open, or right before that grand opening. So we have a lot of road work going on. As far as broadband, we're having some initial discussions there. I can tell you we're working with Verizon and AT&T to improve cell coverage. The council here at the end of 2020 just approved a small cell master licensing agreement. We've had a lot of interest for small cell deployment in the town, primarily due to the tourists coming in, especially in the summer months. But that has changed to more of a year-round approach at this point. So we are looking at that, but infrastructure in terms of broadband, we see it now more than ever, especially with the Zoom economy. We really need to invest in that, and we're going to look at ways to try to attach ourselves to whether it's Thor or some of these other projects. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you all on that. Okay, next question. This is always a fun one, and I know a lot of you have some exciting stuff to talk about. So what exciting new developments are coming down the pike in your town or at the county? And we'll start with the county. Scott?
Yeah, so I'll be relatively brief. We've got some projects going on at the resorts. So One River Run at Keystone, there's an A-lift project at Copper Mountain. There's a hotel on what's sort of commonly referred to as the Chapel Lot that you can see, of course, going up right now. Those are some of the big ones within the county. I will defer to the towns. You guys have a lot of other projects that are coming out of the ground. I will make one mention. We did get approval from the county commissioners yesterday to move forward with a larger library expansion project at the North Branch Library in Silverthorne than what was originally planned. So somewhere in the neighborhood of around 12,000 square feet which is close to about doubling the size of that that library. So we're looking forward to working with Ryan on parking and other associated issues with that facility. But we're excited to be able to move that forward. And then we're also doing interior remodel and rework of the main branch library here in Frisco. So we're excited to be able to upgrade those facilities.
Great, excellent. Okay. Ryan, I know that you have a lot to talk about.
I'll talk fast. I think one of our council members, Kevin McDonald, summed it up the other night. He said, it only took 15 years to become an overnight success. So a lot of planning that now is coming to fruition. So obviously visually 4th Street Crossing is changing drastically the feel of our downtown because it's starting to feel like a downtown. So you're seeing the market hall structure there will open this summer. The parking garage will be open soon. The hotel is the building that you're seeing with the green siding that's under construction now. So that's moving forward. The block to the north, the council has approved a preliminary planned unit development for that block. Same developer, same downtown style. So hotels, restaurants, residential, an opportunity spilling to the block to the north to potentially do some workforce in that project. So those conversations are going on right now, but one block under construction, one block with conversations about future construction. Everything seems to be in play in Silverthorne. I know that Bank of the West is closing that location to customers in April. I'm speculating, but that's a prime downtown corner. I don't know if that'll be on the market, but it's right across from the market hall. So, you know, there's hardly a property in Silverthorne that's not in play right now, under contract, with planning underway. So a lot going on downtown. Remodel at Summit Place will be coming soon. You'll have in the old Office Max, you'll have Sierra Trading and TJ Maxx in there. Green Village obviously got knocked down. I believe that'll be under contract soon. If anybody has driven through for testing at the CenturyLink site, hopefully a lot of people have done that. That'll be a neighborhood at some point in the future. They're in for final site plan. About 30 units, some single family and some multifamily. So basically a whole new neighborhood. It's a great piece of property. So fortunately, the new owner has said, you can use that testing site until the day I need to knock that building down. So we're hoping that'll go through maybe May, and then we'll have to shift. So the pads under construction, the Riverfront Zone District, as we call it. So basically everything from the Forest Service up to Blue River Flats. All of those properties, with the exception of one, I think, are in under contract with folks in planning. So if you're familiar with River West or Blue River Flats, a lot more of that coming along those areas. And opportunity to partner with the county that got stalled because of COVID and the world going upside down. But Child Care Center at Smith Ranch, we're excited. RFPs will be out shortly on a couple of aspects of that project. So just a lot in planning and a lot under construction.
Ryan, what type of businesses are you seeing being interested in finding space?
I think, you know, the market hall is mostly local, like the crepe stand in Breck is doing something here, or the Chimayo in Dillon is doing something in the market hall. So the developer's trying to keep that downtown area with a real local flavor. And so those are the types of things that you'll see first, at least in the market hall.
Okay, cool. And last year we were joking about the In-N-Out Burger. Any interest? See that coming?
No, the banner is one of my daughters has claimed the banner. It's in her bedroom.
Nice. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Nancy, what's going on in Frisco?
Thank you. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun over in Silverthorne. Jeff. All right. Well, we're really excited about the next phase of the marina. So last year, obviously, the beach was built and all the infrastructure. Now we're going to start on the buildings. The request for proposals for bids is out. I think it closes in a couple of weeks. We're looking forward to seeing those bids come in. to build a new administrative building, guest services building. It's really well designed, good on sustainability and low energy usage. There's going to be some remodel of the restroom, bathrooms, and food area as well, but not to the extent that was originally planned. And so we're very excited about that. And then the following summer, possibly the next and final phase. There's a lot of interest down at the marina to activate it also in the winter. So there's lots of talks about doing things during the winter as well. We're very excited about 2 housing projects. So we've just, the council just approved a contract with the development team, Studio Architecture, to partner with us and CDOT on the CDOT lot in town. So we should see those designs finished and hopefully get the construction out to bid this year. And we're also just about to release the request for proposals for the Granite Street project, also known for years as the Sabatini project, but it actually has an address now, 275 Granite, and to put another housing project there. We recognize that rental properties are the highest demand right now, so that is the initial thought, and we'll see where that ends up. I'm excited to say that Foots Rest is finally going somewhere. We have talked to their development team, and they had to put a halt on everything due to COVID, but they've got a lot of inked deals now that we're very much anticipating seeing that get going this summer as well. A couple of other redevelopment projects going on. We're excited about all that's happening.
Great. And for those that don't know, Nancy, where's the CDOT lot?
It's right off of Granite Street. I don't have the address off the top of my head, but it's where the mobile homes were once located.
And what about the Sabatini lot that you said is on Granite? Where is that?
Yeah, it's 275 Granite. It's right across from the community center, so 3rd and Granite.
Great. Okay. Great. Okay. Nathan, what's going on in Dillon?
Well, we have some excitement. I'd say right now, one of the biggest things that has happened in the town of Dillon is our multi-use path, our winter path on Lake Dillon, which was approved by DREC. It's somewhat of a local gem at this point. However, we're seeing a lot of activity out there just because people want to get out and about in the community. I mentioned the marina projects moving forward, but to tie on to the marina project, we're looking at an RFP for our stand-up paddle operations. What we're evaluating right now is whether or not we want to move stand-up paddle closer to the amphitheater and make it more of a permanent structure and try to capture sort of a niche audience with that and expand some of the services that are currently there with stand-up paddle. As far as the town core, the council has expressed desire to activate that area and start with walkability, start with some facade improvements, and try to attract some redevelopment, some growth down there, especially with the neighboring properties being Uptown 240 and Homewood Suites. We're anticipating a lot more activity down there, especially with more people coming into the town core. As far as retail, I would say one of the biggest things right now that's coming out of the ground is the Panera Bread, which is right next to Noodles in the Dillon Ridge Marketplace. And as recent as this week, we're working with a restaurant to take over the old Ruby Tuesdays building, which has been vacant and quite honestly, somewhat of an eyesore lately. So we're opening our arms and welcoming them to the community as we move forward with that process. And then I would say, you know, some of the other exciting things are a little bit further out, and I would say that's partnerships, especially with the county. We're actively working on the County Road 51, the U.S. Forest Service Workforce Housing Project. So our teams work collectively together on that. Right now we have a RFP that's about to go out for the roundabout on Highway 6 in Lake Dillon Drive, that is. So we're looking forward to that. We're also interviewing firms for land use planning for that site up on County Road 51. So We're really excited about that project, and we're happy to have great partners with the county. And I should say we have great partners across the county with every individual entity. There's a great spirit of cooperation, but also friendly competition as well, especially with Ryan. So with that, we're pretty excited. 2021, I think, is going to be a remarkable year, especially as we get out of this pandemic. And I should mention too, with our amphitheater, we were pretty much closed last season. We did have some happy hours that were limited to like 50 people. We are actively planning for events this summer. And we're planning for those in anticipation of major vaccine rollout. Granted, the situation is pretty fluid at this time, but it takes a lot of time to book some of these national acts. And surprisingly, we've had a lot of bigger names that are really receptive to come into Summit County, and they really want to be here. So we're pretty excited about that, and hopefully we can get back to some normalcy and have some of these things happening again here in Summit County.
Great. Okay. And inquiring minds want to know, especially my team at SAR, when are you getting a coffee shop in downtown Dillon?
Well, we're working on that. We actually do have Cammy's, which is in the downtown core. We've had some interest from some other parties to install a coffee shop. Uptown 240 and Homewood Suites have also indicated that they would like to do something in those terms. We're actively working on that. However, we lost Starbucks in the Dillon Ridge Marketplace, not the one in City Market, but the freestanding one over by Chimayo's, simply because they could not meet the demand. Or I shouldn't say they couldn't meet the demand. I guess the people were not coming to that store because there were other stores that they were frequenting. So we're working on that. It's going to be part of our bigger picture of the town core and trying to activate that area. So hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Michelle, what's going on in Blue River?
Well, we're in planning stage right now. In October, we set a comprehensive plan committee to look at our comprehensive plan that was originally developed in 2014. I'm happy to say Sarah is actually our chair as a Blue River resident. And that committee has been meeting monthly and working on in between. A lot has changed since the plan was set in 2014, and so it's almost going to be a new plan, but it's exciting. We've been recently working through our recreation chapter and what the future of recreation in Blue River looks like. It is a huge focus. We held our first Zoom town hall last week with about 26 residents in attendance. The nice thing I will say about COVID is because everything's held via Zoom, our meeting attendance, just general meetings and committees and people participating has increased substantially. Usually, I'll give you an example, planning and zoning usually has 2 people beyond the commission. Last night we had 15 in attendance. So we're looking forward to that. Public engagement has always been a big thing, but so updating our comprehensive plan and what the future looks like, especially as it pertains to land use, recreation. Trails and open space is a very big topic, and our Trails Committee they just adopted their plan that was approved by the Board of Trustees in December. So they're going to start setting out their goals and working on perfecting some easements and hopefully some rec trails for residents throughout the town. We're going to be doing some improvements to our tiny little town park, including a bit of expansion that helps people for children of all ages. It's great for little kids, but many of our little kids are now middle school kids, and so we're going to try to add some features to keep them busy as well. So yeah, and then taking our gateway signs and doing some landscaping and really enhancing that. Those are our big plans, and right now it's all plans and just talking plans.
That's great. All right, thank you. Shannon, what's going on in Breck?
Just a few things for us. The parking structure will open November of 2021, so we're excited for that to occur. The project has been moving along, and I think probably if it's one good thing that came out of COVID, and there's not very many, the kind of having this at this time while we've lost parking, have the structure going up, and having so far had a low snow year has really helped them move that project along. Alta Verde, which I mentioned before, is an 80-unit net zero workforce housing project up on the north end of town. It will be 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments at 60% AMI or less. So we're really proud of that project, not only because of the affordability of the space, but also that net zero component. So super excited to see that. That'll be November of 2022. We're also working on developing 2 workforce housing apartment units or blocks on the McCain property, sort of an extension of the Codo Flats workforce housing that's out there now, but we know we need more of that. So, and as Nancy said, the rental piece is really lacking. So we're trying to get on that a little bit. And then I will just mention the BGV development, because I know that's a popular topic in the community and one that people are very concerned about. For those that don't know, BGV is planning on developing the North Gondola lot and the Gold Rush lots in a partnership with Vail Resorts. That is not a town project. Obviously, we're following it, and we're working with BGV to try to better understand what it is that they'll be building on those lots. I know there's a lot of community outcry to see more of those plans and to actually be able to have some input on what that development will look like. We know that BGV is planning to do that community outreach. They just aren't far enough along in the planning, development, design piece to actually be able to put something out to the public quite yet. So a lot more to come on that. We are taking public comment ourselves. So if people email the mayor at Town of Breckenridge email, we're collecting those comments. We're also sharing those with BGV. And we do encourage folks to reach out to us and BGV with their thoughts on the project, but more to come on the actual design. And I think that's it.
Great, exciting. Okay, Scott Vargo.
We already did mine.
You already did mine. Okay, we already did yours. Okay, cool. What are the hot topics for the year? So we heard about the new developments. What are the hot topics that you're looking at in your towns and community? So we will start with Shannon again.
I think really our focus is on recovery coming out of COVID. So I think that is probably the hottest topic, is what will we look like? What will our economy look like? How will people travel after COVID? And there's probably a lot more questions than we have answers to that. Events, I think Nathan mentioned events in Dillon. That's a big topic in Breck even right now. We have an opportunity to kind of hit a reset button with what events look like in our community. So folks will be seeing some planning going on, some community outreach. BTO will be doing another resident sentiment survey so we can get community feedback on how folks feel about events. And I will say what we've received so far, just anecdotally in emails, is really interesting, where there are people who believe we should have less events, but they don't necessarily want to lose the iconic Breckenridge events. So, that not so many events, but keep the really iconic ones, and maybe bring back events that we used to do like 30 years ago that we stopped doing that people thought were really cool. So that'll be a very interesting process as we move forward through the year. And then just the last thing I'll mention, like Frisco last year, Breck shut down our main street. We did a walkable main, allowed the restaurants out on the street. So there'll be some conversation on whether or not that will come back again in 2021.
That's cool. That was great. Okay. Michelle, what are the hot topics in Blue River?
Hot topics are probably land use discussions and code updates. I will say that the one big discussion that is consistent every single meeting is Highway 9. Continuing to try to work with CDOT on improving safety, speeds, that topic, but also we are going to be listening to a presentation and voicing concerns about a potential chain-up station that has been proposed across from Town Hall. For obvious reasons, there's not a lot of warm and fuzzies about a potential for chain-up station right there. So it is something that has hit the radar and hit the radar running. So that will be a pretty big focus, hot button topics. But beyond that, we're going to be pretty quiet. We are discussing what summer events, if anything, looks like. But that's going to be pretty in flux moving forward.
Wow. Okay, great. Nancy.
Thank you. Well, I think, Shannon read my notes, but same issue, but really significant focus on economic recovery. There's a real disparity on how people have come through the pandemic. As we all know, real estate's done very well. We've seen all those numbers. Some businesses, grocery stores did well. And then we have catastrophic losses among restaurant, retail, some personal services and service industry. So all of the towns in the county have been investing real money into helping these businesses through the worst of the times. But when you look at some of the numbers they've suffered, we're very concerned about how they're going to come through on the long end of the pandemic, because we don't know what behavior has changed for people. We know something, that people are wanting to work remotely and wanting to live where they want to, not having to live where they work. And so we've all seen those impact. We've been having the council talk about it from a visioning perspective, and they're continuing that, having a special meeting in a couple of weeks to drill down on that topic. And similar to BREC, they've been strongly discussing really what is the issue on events? How do we align those with who we are as a town? So they're going to have a meeting to really discuss all the events. There are some that people want to keep because they're legacy events, and others want to get rid of those legacy events. We're having the same sort of discussion that Shannon was mentioning, that we really, are people going to want to be elbow to elbow and shoulder to shoulder right away? Probably not. On the other hand, there's an argument that pent-up demand is going to drive even more tourism, and we've seen a lot of people here. So what to do to manage all those folks that are here? Do we want to attract them more to a centralized location, which could continue the transmission of virus? Or is everyone going to be vaccinated and all of this is going to be solved? That's a question none of us have the answer to. So that discussion is not just a hot topic, but rather, how do we, what we're really trying to get everyone to think about is, how do we leverage some of the things that have changed that might be one we might want to keep? And how do we also take the opportunity to do some resets? And what are things we want to, whether or not go back to, but hang on to, that have changed, that we think are worth holding on to? I think people really miss getting together. Maybe I'm speaking for myself. I really miss people. And so I think there is some of that we are anxious to see return. That is our focus for the next 3-4 months as we come through this on the other side. Really encourage everyone to watch those stimulus packages. We're looking, I have a number of staff reading every single thing we see coming out of the feds, so that we can capture any stimulus funding into our community to finish some of these projects that are shovel ready, our old words from the Great Recession recovery. So we're looking for that as a way to capitulate the opportunity into something positive.
Great. Okay. Scott.
Yeah, so we're obviously the hottest topic for the county has been for all of 2020 and into 21 COVID. I think we're finally at a place now where we've got some light at the end of the tunnel. We're really excited about the vaccine distribution that's underway. We're really proud of what we've done in Summit County in terms of vaccine distribution. We're excited to see that rolling out now to 65 plus and to educators within the community and some of the other folks that are critical to the school district operations. So we're really excited to see that. It's going to take some time, but again, I think the light's at the end of the tunnel and we're moving in the right direction. And again, I think the community can be really proud of your public health and your emergency management folks at the county for being sort of an example within the state for how to do distribution effectively and efficiently. So we'll keep that rolling along. I think other topics that the new county commissioners are really interested in looking at are economic development and diversity. It's really an area that the county hasn't been deeply involved with. And so we'll be getting more involved in that area as we go forward. Equity and social justice within the community is another area that, again, we're going to try to bring together a number of different community groups and towns and talk about what we can do on a countywide basis to try to encourage diversity and equity within our residents and our visitors both. And then one other item that has been sort of mentioned, we have seen a lot of folks still coming to Summit County, particularly this summer. Snow hasn't been great so far this winter, so our backcountry has not yet been overwhelmed, but we are doing a lot of planning work around the backcountry with the towns, with the Forest Service, with State Patrol and CDOT and others, just to try to address some of the overcrowding and overuse issues that we're anticipating when we get some better snow, and then certainly anticipating when we get back to the summer. Folks have certainly taken advantage of being out of doors during the pandemic, and I think that that's a trend that is likely to continue, pandemic or not, that they're going to be folks out using our trail system. Our proximity to Denver just lends to having so many more people here, and our trails can't handle that at the moment. And so we have to talk about how do we better disperse people? How do we get them to some of the maybe lesser known trails and trailheads rather than everybody going to the same top 5 or 6 places? Are there ways for us to do some different shuttling services and things like that to some of those most popular trailheads, because the parking is just simply not adequate for the number of folks, and we're having safety issues, public safety issues, where search and rescue can't get in to a particular area because the parking is so congested that it's down to, one way or less than one way travel. So those are some of the big things that we're looking at right now, and certainly trying to anticipate for this summer coming up.
That's crazy. I just want to mention thanks for your leadership on public health and getting the vaccine out there. What everyone wants to know, and you may or may not be able to answer, but when is everyone, average age person going to be able to get a vaccine?
Yeah, I'll say that's a very fluid situation. And so the state controls the vaccine distribution. So the federal government is producing and acquiring the vaccines and then distributing it to states. And the way that it's been set up at this point is that the states, the governors themselves, have the discretion to create their distribution plan. And so we are subject to the state in terms of how they roll out vaccine. At this point, the rollout sort of changes as the state sees it appropriate. And so they started with 70 plus after healthcare workers and first responders, and they feel comfortable enough now in terms of the supply that they're getting on a regular basis from the federal government to be able to expand to educators and 65 plus. It's going to be a while. That is a big group. And then the rest of that essential worker group, grocery store workers, utility operators, other frontline staff, that's a much bigger group. And so it's going to take a while before the state, I think, feels comfortable that they're going to have regular enough vaccine shipments coming from the federal government to be able to open it up to that level as well. And then, like you said, Sarah, just sort of the average Joe on the street that wants to get a shot that doesn't meet any of the higher risk occupations or age categories, They're going to be further down the line. We are hearing a range anywhere from, summertime to the fall. We've heard some much more pessimistic projections of first quarter of next year. But we're hoping that as new vaccines are approved, that the supply will grow sort of exponentially, and we'll be able to get a whole lot more people vaccinated on a quicker schedule. So
Great.
stay tuned and certainly watch the county's website and postings, and we'll give out as much information as we have as soon as we've got it.
Great, thank you. Nathan, last but not least.
Thanks. I would say the hot topics coming up are for sure what Nancy and Shannon mentioned, and I guess everybody did. Economic recovery coming into 2021, especially with the pandemic. A lot of our smaller businesses have been hit tremendously hard compared to some of the national retailers or restaurant chains. So we're going to be looking at that in particularly, but as Scott alluded to with parking issues, parking is a big issue, especially around the lake, summertime. We're going to be evaluating that. And as a result of the pandemic, we have more and more people living in the town of Dillon. So traditionally, it's been about an 80-20 split, 20% being full-time residents, 80% are either second homeowners or they fluctuate throughout the year. We're seeing an increase in people that are living year-round in the town of Dillon. And those individuals have come to many council meetings and they want to be involved in our community. And it's not necessarily a hot topic, but it's more of a breath of fresh air. And how do we incorporate these individuals into our plans, how we operate as a town, and include them and be more of an inclusive community and trying to facilitate the needs of these individuals that are coming from all across the country and more importantly, the world. So we're looking at that. But then as we go forward with the economic recovery, I also think that we're sort of at a turning point with the town of Dillon. We have a lot of new development going on. There's other opportunities for redevelopment. So the concern, or I should say the topic that we're going to be facing is, what does the town want to look like? We have multi-million dollars of developments going on right now. And do we want to focus more on new developments or do we want to focus on redevelopments? And I think that's really going to be a turning point for the town in how we look coming out of this pandemic and moving forward. So we're going to start those conversations here in 2021. I can just say for the north side of the county, there's a lot of discussions about, building fatigue and whether or not we need to press pause and let some of these things open up. So I would say that's probably one of the bigger hot topic buttons.
Great, thank you. All right, we've got one last question, but I've got to ask Shannon, hot topics always. I mentioned this event at one of our last events that, City Market is often a hot topic that is asked about at this event. And when I mentioned it, I got about 6 or 7 emails saying, wait, what happened with City Market? What's going on? So I have to ask, any updates? Obviously, they've just redeveloped or remodeled a little bit, but is there anything happening with that project right now?
No, sad to say there is not. So we have a little bit of a remodel, which hopefully will help a little bit, but we know that will not alleviate the congestion in the store. But that is unfortunately a bit out of our hands. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so last question, big question. A recent Summit Daily article on short-term rental policies included a number of figures that appeared to indicate that there's only a 0.125% incident rate of disturbance to reservations. Based on this data, is there really a need for your current short-term rental requirements? And what is the ultimate goal of these efforts if the incidences are already very low? How do we best balance the needs of our community, our second homeowners, and our economy within the short-term rental discussion? So loaded question, but let's start with Scott Vargo.
Great. So I guess what I'll say is that there are certainly a volume of complaints that come in around some of the sort of typical nuisance issues, whether it's trash or level of noise or whatever it might be. I think what's important for folks to understand is as we go through the permitting process on our short-term rental applicants, we have identified a lot of other challenges, health and safety related challenges through that process. And so we find a great deal of value in doing that, whether it's bedrooms that do not have egress that are being rented, or other occupancy concerns that exist, not having smoke or carbon monoxide detectors within those properties. And so we've identified and uncovered a lot of those sorts of things as part of the permitting process. And we continue to have lots and lots of new applications for folks. We also are doing, again, monitoring on a regular basis to identify those properties that are not permitted under the Summit County's regulations. It's important that everybody is sort of on a level playing field within that industry, and making sure that they're all subject to the same rules, making sure that they all understand the liabilities that they have as it relates to local taxes, and making sure those things are being collected appropriately. We have a lot of situations that we've uncovered where that just simply wasn't happening. And again, we continue to do monitoring to identify that. And it's not fair for one short-term rental property to be playing by those rules and another not to be. And so this is one way for us to be able to help to ensure that those things are taking place consistently.
Great. Okay. Nancy.
I see Ryan keeps unmuting. I think he wants to jump in for some. Okay.
The habit.
Oh, okay. Well, I would agree with everything Scott said, which is unusual. No, I agree with everything Scott said. And also that the whole program itself with low incident rate, if incident rate or problems were the measure we were trying to achieve, low incident rate, and that's all we did it for, then maybe that is a valuable measure. But that's actually a good sign, meaning that our enforcement, our letters, our program, our outreach is all working. So if it's working, that's a good sign. So low incident rate means these folks know that we mean it, that they need to follow the rules and the regulations. Without the program, we'd probably see a lot more problems. So it's working. It's achieving the actual goals, which is balancing the needs, the very question you asked. How do we balance those needs? By having a good and effective program that people, as everything Scott said, knows. So I don't want to repeat all that. So just insert what he said. And then I would also say that, there is discussion about how STRs do affect our housing needs, and that the greater the number of STRs, the lower the number of long-term rentals that are available for the community. And that is also something that needs to be considered. And I know at least all of our community folks have asked about, how do we balance differently providing a way to limit the number of STRs so that we could have more long-term housing stock. Council hasn't elected to take up that discussion and to address that specific issue, but rather this program is helping us to understand that those who are here are using their home correctly. It is safe. It is meeting the quality of life standards that we're trying to achieve. And we need to regulate it so that it doesn't get out of control. So I think it's working.
Okay. Shannon.
So I agree with everything Scott and Nancy said, and I won't repeat those points. I guess one thing I'll add, you talked about balance, and I do believe that this is an effective way to balance the varying needs within our community. A lot of the STRs that we require to be licensed and participate in this program are interspersed either in neighborhoods or in areas where you have both residents and guests in spaces that are in close proximity to one another. And this helps balance the needs of both of those folks, right? We want our guests to be able to come and have a good time. We also want them to know what the rules are and to follow those rules. And we want our residents who have to live here every day to be able to do that in peace without, noise and trash and these other issues that do happen to come up with STRs. And like Nancy said, thankfully, that's a small percentage of the overall reservations that we see in our community. And we know that STRs are very valuable to our economy, and they keep our community running, they bring revenue in, they keep people employed, and we value that highly. We just feel like there needs to be a balance. And I will concur, I believe the program is working and working well.
Great. Okay, I'm going to back up for a second because we just got a question on short-term rentals for Summit County. And I know Scott has to leave here in just a minute. How many calls to the hotline is a renter allowed before actions are taken in unincorporated Summit County?
Yeah, so we respond to all of those complaints in one fashion or another, either through our vendor or through our own code enforcement and STR folks. There is no set number, so you could have a single incident that would be so egregious that your permit could be revoked, or you could have several violations that are much more minor in nature that would not necessarily result in a revocation. So it is flexible and determined much more on a case-by-case basis. And Sarah, to your point, I have another meeting that I have to run to, and so I just want to take a moment to just again thank you and thank everybody else for your questions and for hanging in there and listening to all of us talk. And we look forward to this every year. So hopefully next year we'll be back to the normal format for this event. So
Great.
Thanks everybody.
Okay, Ryan.
Yeah, just, I think Nancy nailed it. If you've got a home that previously, was stacking up 16 or 17 people on every potential sleeping surface and cars, and now at least in Silverthorne, you're 2 to a bedroom plus 2, and you may have cut that occupancy in half, you're just much more likely to have a little bit of a harmonious situation with your neighbors. So I think we're trying to strike that balance, and they're fantastic to stay in, right? We all love to stay in VRBOs, not so much to live next to in a lot of cases. And I know those numbers, sometimes folks don't call that number. They'll call the mayor, they'll call me, they'll call PD directly, they'll go over and talk. So I think those might still be a little bit understated. There are still a good number of conflicts that occur out there, and the neighborhood character has changed in a lot of places. And so we're sorting our way through that, and I think trying to strike the best balance in each of our communities.
Great, thank you. Okay, Nathan.
Yeah, in the essence of time, I agree with everybody else. We're trying to strike that harmonious situation with the STRs and our local population. STRs are a big business, especially in the town of Dillon. We have a lot of short-term rentals. So I think we're close to Silverthorne, but Silverthorne has a higher population than us, which, that's another item. But needless to say, we're trying to work that out. And, I'll dovetail off of what Ryan mentioned. A lot of these calls are coming directly to either the police department or a town staffer or an elected official in the town. And we're just going out there and trying to proactively try to mitigate or come to a solution on what that topic is or what we've been approached with. So we are trying to proactively engage those STRs to make sure that we can have that harmony in the town. But as far as what everybody else said, we agree completely. And Nancy, Shannon, Ryan, Scott, and Michelle, they all did a wonderful job. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Michelle's going to be the last one on this. And then if there are any town managers that can stick on, we've got a couple of questions for the town of Dillon, I see, and Breckenridge. So, and then I'm sure we'll have a couple more. If anyone's got questions, you can type them right now. But with that, let's get with Michelle.
So we're the same as most everyone else. The one thing that we did do, our regulations were not as firm, and were not as formalized as they needed to be. So in 2020, we did pass a new ordinance, really growing our regulations up. And much like Scott said, it's opened up our eyes to what people were considering a bedroom, and where they were sleeping people. So getting that put in place, allowing for us to also make sure, because many of the properties are on septic systems, which does impact occupancy. So getting those regulations in place has been key. Some pushback, but not as much. Many people are coming into compliance. We don't participate in the hotline at all, so none of our calls go there. The calls that we do get are addressed by our PD right away. I will say too, though, that our number one focus, and it has come up, is maintaining that balance that Shannon talked about. And we, maintaining our neighborhoods. People have accepted that there are short-term rentals, but they don't want a hotel next door. So maintaining that balance and maintaining that character has been key. So these regulations are doing that. And with our updated regulations, we've seen a lot of good, positive, continued positive enforcement, and hopefully move forward in a good light.
Great, thank you. Okay, great. And I was just informed, Ryan, I skipped you on hot topics. You want to go ahead and do that?
I knew we were pressed for time, but I will quickly mention two things in development properties that we control. The Smith Ranch neighborhood obviously is going gangbusters. I think as it stands right now, we just opened up a new round for folks to join the lottery. I think there's currently one single family home that's for sale that's not spoken for. The 10 acres in front of that, the Smith Ranch commercial property, that's an exciting topic this year. We're working with Continuum Development on that opportunity, which would include retail, grocery store, and over 100 units of workforce rental. So that's big. The other thing I would say, Nancy touched on it, collectively, the county and all of the towns have put millions of dollars directly into local businesses or local employees through our support of FERC. And so that is kind of a new space for all of us, but each of our county or council members and commissioners have said, we had to do that. And that was an incredible effort. I know Scott's not here, but it's not just their work on the vaccine. They've had an almost impossible task of trying to balance public health with the economy. And I think they've done a fantastic job. I know they get beat up on. I know they get disgusting feedback from folks about personal attacks, and it's really sad, but they have done a fantastic job in this county. And I would also give a shout out to the school district for anybody that has kids that are in school 2 days a week. What that does for the mental health of your family, your kids, and the opportunity for people that go to work while those kids are at school those 2 days. The work that the school district has done to make that a reality is kind of mind-boggling. And I don't think you can understate the impact that their efforts have made. So when we finally get out of this and we have a big celebration, I think county, your public health folks, your school district, and obviously all of your frontline folks should be at the front of that parade. And just an incredible effort that everybody doesn't see that every day, but I know the managers on this group see the county and the school district, what they're doing. So shout out to those folks.
That's
Couldn't
great.
agree more, Ryan. Thank you for that. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, this is a pretty amazing county that we live in. Lots of hardworking people across the board. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions quickly. I want to get back to an early question for Nathan. Nathan, the Uptown 240 project, are there any concerns that this project isn't going to get completed? It was put on hold for a while. Now it's going again.
I would say we're still on hold. Unfortunately, I'm not privy to those private conversations that the developer is having with their financial institutions. But I will tell you this, the town of Dillon's committed to working with those developers to make that project a reality. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't know what that reality looks like, just because we haven't been privy to some of those conversations with their financial institutions. But I will also say this, that we're putting the pedal to the metal, so to speak. We are pushing forward and trying to get that project more active and getting it back to an ongoing construction phase. If you look at all the projects around us throughout the pandemic, it seems like many of these projects haven't really slowed down except for this one. So we're doing everything that we can to get it back up to where it needs to be, and hopefully that project can become a reality.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, and then there was a question about the update on the Tarn construction at the dam. And Shannon responded that they're gonna move forward with construction beginning May of this year, and it's a 2-year project. Shannon, do you have anything you wanna add to that?
I don't. I am happy to answer any other questions, but like I said, we're planning to start in May. That looks like it's going to move forward as planned, but just as that reminder that it will go on for a couple of years. So,
Okay, great.
very important project.
All right, yes it is. Ryan?
Nathan, I think hopefully a lot of folks saw the view that they'll have from the bar restaurant in the hotel. Spectacular. And then I heard that the first round of drinks when that's done was going to be on you. Can you confirm that for everyone today?
I can confirm that. So the view, the restaurant at the top of the Homewood Suites is a spectacular view, hence the name. Our town council had the privilege of taking a tour a couple days ago, and the views are just inspirational, to be quite honest. And hopefully, well, back to the Uptown 240, hopefully we can get that up to speed so you're not overlooking an active construction site. But if you look at the mountain range, it's pretty spectacular. So yeah, we'll host something there once it's open, and we'll make sure that everybody parks down in Silverthorne at the new parking garage.
And Sarah will try and do an event up there as well. That would be an awesome location for one of our events during the summer. Okay, we're almost done here. I've got just 2 more questions. It looks like Kathy asked about the hotline number. I think Nancy was going to put that in the email. So if you want to know the short-term rental hotline, Nancy, you don't have
I was
it?
just going to say there's different numbers. So
Okay.
Blue River has, it's to their dispatch. Frisco has a different number. Breck and the county have the same number. Silverthorne, I'm confused. So you got to check your own.
Yeah, check with your town that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, and then loaded question. Any town, county entity working on childcare problems, not just affordability. I know some towns offer funds, but more so the lack of availability and length of wait lists and how it affects the local workforce's ability to earn income. Silverthorne is doing something, but still years out. So
Well, that's what we need. We need more supply. The demand for it is too high to meet the current supply. So it's a basic economic problem that obviously then the costs go up. Breckenridge has a great childcare program that helps subsidize the state through the county, has good subsidies for low income. Frisco is thinking about, council's been considering that, so we're doing some research, but we need more supply. It'd be a great business to get into.
great. Anyone else want to chime in on that? All right, great. Well, thank you again for a great event, even though we had to do it via Zoom. I appreciate your time and your great information that realtors can use throughout the year with their clients and let them know what's going on in the communities. And gosh, here's hoping that we're all together in person next year, but that we can see each other around the county outside at events this summer. So with that, thank you to all of our members who joined today. Thank you to the town and county managers, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.